then sticking in the entertainment realm a little bit, and also gonna through this get into great TV dads as well. It's been about a month now. The Roseanne Reboot announcement was made. Next year, Roseanne is going to have an 8-episode reboot. I can't remember what network, but who gives a shit. Great fucking show. Love that show, man. I watch it every fucking night. It's on one of the little point some shit channels here out of Dayton, and just love that fucking show. But when I heard that, I was like, okay, that's cool, and I'm reading through. This was quite a few years ago when she had posted this specific bit about where she saw the rest of the family being at that point in time. And since that was a few years ago, I'm not going to tell you what she had said then, because, most of it, if not all of it, I'm sure will change. But my point is, when I was reading that, it said John Goodman is a part of the cast, and I'm like, whoa, hold the fuck up here for a second. So a lot of you may not remember, and those of you who do remember, I'll do a quick recap though for y'all who don't. If you remember the last couple seasons of Roseanne, it was like they had won the lottery and they were blowing money. They remodeled the house. They did a bunch of traveling, traveled around the world, around the country, all this shit. And Dan was not around, and because in the storyline, I believe I know at one point he was out west in California helping take care of his mother, and that's when his character had an affair, which was bullshit. Let me just get that out of the way right now so I don't have to come back to it. Dan Connor, he never would have had a fucking affair. He never would have cheated on Rosie, and he never would have fucking done that to his family. But, John Goodman and Roseanne's real life BS at the time, whatever. But it turned out at the end of the final episode, we found out that the last couple seasons were not reality, that they were the writings of Roseanne. Because if you remember further back earlier in the show, she had wanted to write, and Dan and the kids had built up the basement a little bit for her to have a little area to write. So the last couple seasons weren't reality. That was her writing. And what had happened was, well, first of all, this was just fucking weird. So, in the show, Darlene and David were together, and Mark and Becky were together. But we found out that in reality, that Becky and David were together, and Mark and Darlene were together. And Darlene and Mark had the baby. Okay, odd, whatever. I also believe it was Jackie was gay, but she had written her mother as gay. I don't know. I couldn't remember exactly why, but whatever. And then, but here's the one, the Dan Connor, and how the fuck is John Goodman going to be back in this show? Because she had made it so that Dan had died when he had his heart attack at Darlene's wedding. Okay, no. I had said earlier Becky and Mark. David had the kid. It was Mark and Darlene. Sorry. This is my ride. And so Dan had died when he had his heart attack at Darlene's wedding. Okay? And that was a heartbreaker to hear that, he didn't survive that in reality, and really sucked. And so I'm like, okay, well, Dan's dead, so how the fuck is this going to work? Well, her thing had been, her initial thought in that bit she posted a few years ago was that Dan faked his death. And I'm like, no. Hell no. First of all, let's do the realistic part of it, okay? He was at his pregnant daughter's wedding. He had a heart attack. He went to the hospital. I'm sure his whole family went with him. Somehow he died, but didn't die. And I say that because he died because they would have shown his family his body. They would have, gone in to see him, so they would know that he's dead. Okay, but so he died, but he didn't die. How did he fucking fake his death? Get the fuck out of here, dude. That's completely ridiculous and stupid. But then you get to the real bullshit part, which is Dan fucking Connor faked his death? No. Dude, Dan Connor he is one of the greatest family fucking fathers of TV history. That man, he worked his ass off. And his portrayal of that type of character still holds up today. A good fucking hard-working man will do anything to scrape by. Yeah, he failed with a couple businesses, but he tried. He tried, man. Who the fuck else, Dude, get out of here. He was a good man. He loved his family. He loved his wife. You trying to tell me that Dan fucking Connor, for whatever reason, would fake his death and leave his somewhat newborn son, because they had a son, okay? He would leave his somewhat newborn son, his wife, Rosie. He would not leave Rosie. But then he would leave his daughter. He would let his daughter think that he died on her fucking wedding day. He was talking to her on the bench when he had the heart attack. And he'd really let her think that he fucking died, And his grandchild, that was going to be his first grandchild. He's just going to skip out on that? I'm sorry. I call bullshit on that shit, Roseanne. Fuck no. Whatever. But while on the topic of reboots, I just had to throw this out there because something that bothers me. We have a show. Well, it's everywhere. It's not like it's a show here, but on our channel here, daily they play a show called Hot in Cleveland. It's pretty funny. Betty White, she's amazing. Love her so much. And it's got a good cast, but. They blew that show. That could have and should have been the Golden Girls reboot. It really should have. Because Betty White should have been playing Rose. And now she's the senior member of the group. And it just, I don't know. That one annoys me so bad I can't even comprehend anything and keep my mind straight enough to fucking talk about it, so whatever.